Ever pulled up an online map to visit some random corner of the world only to realize you're still glued to your couch, phone in hand? In a time when satellites can zoom in on your backyard and booking a flight takes seconds, it's easy to assume every inch of Earth is mapped, named, and claimed. But guess what? Some places are so remote, so untouched, that even Google Maps shrugs and moves on. You'd have better luck ordering a pizza on Mars than finding a convenience store in these hidden corners. So, if you're up for some virtual escapism, let's dive into 15 of the most mysterious and uncharted places on the planet. Ones you won't find on any map, not even Google's. Number 15. Vale do Javari, Brazil. Most places on Earth have been prodded, photographed, and labeled to death, but not Vale do Javari. This stretch of Amazonian wilderness is so remote that even Google Maps throws its hands up and says, "Not my problem." At roughly 33,000 square miles, about the size of Austria, it's home to as many as 14 uncontacted tribes who have zero interest in your Wi-Fi struggles or the latest iPhone release. Recently, Brazil's indigenous agency decided to step in, launching an expedition to ease tensions between two rival tribes, The Guardian reports. The region has long been under threat from illegal loggers, miners, and outsiders who think they can waltz in like it's some undiscovered Airbnb spot, but it's not. These communities have existed in complete isolation for centuries, proving that not everyone wants a Costco membership. It's one of the last places on Earth where modern civilization is a rumor. And honestly, that might not be such a bad thing. Number 14. Sandy Island, South Pacific. Some places exist but aren't mapped. Others are mapped but don't exist. Enter Sandy Island, a landmass that appeared on Google Earth, world maps, and marine charts for years, despite being about as real as a TikTok financial guru. Located between Australia and New Caledonia, Sandy Island was confidently marked on navigation systems until a group of scientists decided to sail there and check it out. What did they find? Absolutely nothing. Just open water, confused expressions, and probably a lot of awkward silence. BBC reports that this was likely a case of human error passed down through generations of mapmakers who kept copying the same mistake. Either that, or the island just pulled off the ultimate disappearing act. Scientists blame outdated data. Conspiracy theorists? Well, let's say they've got other ideas. Number 13. North Sentinel Island. If there's one place that will never be fully mapped, visited, or turned into a tourist attraction, it's North Sentinel Island. This heavily forested, coral-guarded island in the Andaman Archipelago is home to the Sentinelese, one of the last uncontacted tribes on Earth. And they like it that way. Attempts to visit have ended in arrows, spears, and immediate regret. The Indian government has officially declared the island off-limits, not just to protect the Sentinelese from modern diseases, but to protect outsiders from, well, the Sentinelese. No one knows exactly how they live, what they believe, or how they've managed to resist all contact for thousands of years. And honestly, maybe that's for the best. In a world where privacy is nearly extinct, North Sentinel Island remains one of the few places that has managed to stay truly untouched. And if history is any indicator, that's not changing anytime soon. We mean without any modern tech or tools, the Sentinelese have managed to say, thanks, but no thanks, to everything from Alexander the Great and Marco Polo to modern-day media hounds. That's something worth protecting. Number 12. Northern Greenland. If you think Greenland is just ice and a few colorful houses, you're only half right. Head north, and you'll find some of the most inhospitable terrain on the planet, where temperatures can dip to minus 40 degrees Fahrenheit, polar bears outnumber people, and the nearest town could be hundreds of miles away. This is where even the Inuit communities stop and say, yeah, that's too much. The further north you go, the fewer signs of life you'll see. No roads, no settlements, just endless white landscapes that make Antarctica look like a beach resort. Scientists venture here to study climate change, but even they know not to stay too long. The terrain is so brutal that even satellite mapping struggles to keep up. It's a place where survival is an extreme sport, and nature still calls the shots. In fact, some areas of northern Greenland have never been explored, let alone mapped. And with conditions like these, that's not likely to change anytime soon. Number 11. Tristan da Cunha. Picture this. You're on a volcanic island thousands of miles from the nearest continent, with no airport, no Starbucks, and only one post office that probably won't deliver your Amazon package anytime soon. Welcome to Tristan da Cunha, the most remote inhabited island on Earth. This rugged South Atlantic outpost is home to fewer than 300 people who rely on a cargo ship that arrives a handful of times a year. Forget same-day shipping. Here, patience isn't a virtue. It's a survival skill. The island's cliffs and relentless waves make it a nightmare to reach, ensuring that only the most determined travelers, or those stranded by fate, ever set foot here. On the upside, no traffic, no tourists, and an ocean view from every house. On the downside, if you ever run out of milk, you might be waiting months for a restock. If Google Street View ever makes it here, that would be a miracle in itself. And honestly, maybe some places are better left off the map. Number 10. Yucatan cenotes. Beneath the Yucatan Peninsula lies a network of underwater caves so vast and unexplored that if mermaids were real, this is where they'd be hiding. These cenotes stretch for thousands of kilometers, forming an intricate labyrinth of submerged tunnels that no map fully captures. Photographer Klaus Tiemann has been documenting these hidden waterways, The Guardian reports, highlighting their ecological importance. These aren't just pretty swimming spots for Instagram tourists. These cenotes hold the fresh water that sustains the region's ecosystems. Meanwhile, modern development and pollution are putting them at risk, because of course they are. To the ancient Maya, cenotes were sacred portals to the underworld. To modern explorers, they're an uncharted mystery. To some reckless scuba divers, a very real way to get lost forever. So what do you think about it? Well, let us know in the comment below. Now, let's talk about Number 9. Kerguelen Islands. The Kerguelen Islands, aka the Desolation Islands, live up to their reputation. Located deep in the southern Indian Ocean, they are so remote that even Google seems to have shrugged them off. No permanent residents, no tourist attractions, just a handful of researchers braving the howling winds and icy seas. Life here is defined by extreme weather, with roaring 60-mph winds and glaciers straight out of a sci-fi movie. The only way in? A weeks-long boat ride from Réunion, which makes getting stranded on a deserted island sound easy in comparison. With no native population, the islands remain one of Earth's most untouched places, unless you count the occasional French scientist shivering in a research station. If you're looking for true isolation, congratulations. This is it. Just don't expect a warm welcome, or warmth in general. Number 8. Motuo County, China. Motuo County is the ultimate "you can't sit with us" of remote locations. Officially the last county in China without a proper road, it's buried deep in the Tibetan Autonomous Region, surrounded by treacherous mountain passes that have humbled even the best engineers. Just getting here is a multi-step ordeal. First, an exhausting trek through the Himalayas, then a nerve-wracking crossing over a 200-meter suspension bridge. The county itself is something out of a fantasy novel, revered in Buddhist scripture as a sacred land and home to a staggering 1/10 of China's plant species. Over the years, millions of dollars have been thrown at trying to build a functional road to Motuo. The result? A highway that lasted a few days before being swallowed by landslides, mud, and dense forest. Mother Nature simply isn't interested in infrastructure here. And honestly, that might be why it remains one of the most untouched places in Asia. Number 7. Cape Melville, Australia. Cape Melville is where Australia hides its best-kept secret, an untouched rainforest locked behind a fortress of giant boulders. Perched on the coast of Queensland, this rugged headland remained largely unexplored until scientists stumbled in and discovered species that exist nowhere else on Earth. The landscape here is pure survival mode terrain. Massive granite boulders, piled hundreds of feet high, make it nearly impossible to get in. For centuries, whatever lived inside remained undisturbed, until researchers finally breached the natural barricade and found new species of geckos, skinks, and frogs that had been thriving in isolation. Mapping Cape Melville is a nightmare, and visiting isn't much easier. No roads, no easy trails, and definitely no tourist-friendly signs pointing the way. It's a place where nature has the final say, and so far, it's made one thing clear. Some places are better left alone. Number 6. Labrador Wilderness, Canada. If you ever need to disappear for a while, no questions asked, Labrador's wilderness is a solid option. Sprawling across eastern Canada, this massive stretch of tundra, forests, and rugged coastline is so vast and empty that even satellite images struggle to capture its true scale. While tiny communities dot the coastline, the interior remains almost completely untouched. No highways slicing through, no bustling tourism industry, just raw, untamed wilderness where the only signs of life might be caribou, black bears, and the occasional lone explorer who may or may not have gotten lost. It's a land of extremes. Winters are brutal, summers are fleeting, and the weather can change so fast that even experienced travelers find themselves caught off guard. But if you can handle the isolation, Labrador offers something rare in today's hyper-connected world. Absolute silence. No notifications, no distractions, just you and the wild. Number 5. Fiordland, New Zealand. New Zealand is already known for landscapes that look straight out of a movie, literally, thanks Lord of the Rings, but Fiordland takes things to another level. Think sheer cliffs plunging into misty fjords, waterfalls that seem to pour straight out of the clouds, and valleys so remote they've barely been touched by human hands. Getting here isn't easy. Most of Fiordland is only accessible by boat or multi-day treks through dense, rugged terrain. The area is home to some of the country's most challenging hikes, like the Milford Track, which weaves through dramatic mountain passes, dense rainforest, and some of the most untouched scenery on the planet. Despite its isolation, Fiordland remains one of the last truly wild places in the world. It's nature at its most cinematic, no CGI required. And unlike Middle-earth, this landscape is very, very real. Number 4. Gangkhar Puensum. Every climber with an ego dreams of planting a flag on untouched peaks. Well, it's great. But in Bhutan, Gangkhar Puensum stands tall as the ultimate no trespassing sign. At over 24,000 feet, it's the highest unclimbed mountain in the world. Not because no one's tried, but because Bhutan straight up banned climbing it. The reason? Well, you won't believe it, but it's considered sacred. Locals believe the mountain is home to guardian spirits, and honestly, considering the number of disasters on other famous peaks, they might be onto something. Some climbers have suggested using satellite imagery to explore it from a distance, but that's like claiming you've been to Paris because you watched Emily in Paris. At a time when billionaires are racing to slap their names on everything from stadiums to space, Gangkhar Puensum remains gloriously untouched. A rare reminder that not everything on Earth is up for grabs. All right, now, let's move to number 3, Kamchatka Peninsula. If Russia had a Do Not Disturb sign, it would be the Kamchatka Peninsula. Jutting into the Pacific, this untamed land is a volcanic playground filled with geysers, hot springs, and more bears than people. Seriously, the bears here could start their own government. With no roads connecting Kamchatka to the rest of Russia, getting in is an adventure of its own. unless you have a helicopter or a serious sense of direction. But those who make the trek are rewarded with some of the wildest landscapes on Earth, where steam-spewing calderas and untouched salmon rivers look straight out of a National Geographic spread. For nature lovers, Kamchatka is paradise. For everyone else, it's a test of how long you can survive without cell service, grocery stores, or the comforting sight of another human being. But call Putin, and you'll be good. Number 2. Pitcairn Island. If you've ever wanted to live in a place where your neighbors are literally descendants of history's most famous ship mutiny, Pitcairn Island is your spot. This speck in the South Pacific became home to the surviving mutineers of the HMS Bounty and their Tahitian companions in 1790, and their descendants still live here today. With a population hovering around 50, Pitcairn is one of the least populated places on Earth. Internet, limited, grocery stores, non-existent, entertainment. Hope you like fishing, farming, or waiting for the occasional cruise ship to swing by. Getting there isn't for the faint of heart. There's no airstrip, and the journey by boat can be a test of your sea legs. But if you do make it, you'll be stepping into one of the last places on Earth where history still lingers in every corner, untouched by modern chaos. We love that kind of spot. Number 1. Marie Byrd Land, Antarctica. If the world had a forgotten corner, Marie Byrd Land would be it. This massive chunk of Antarctica is so remote and untouched that it's often called the largest unclaimed territory on Earth. No permanent research stations, no human settlements, just ice, wind, and a whole lot of nothing. With temperatures that regularly drop below -50 degrees Fahrenheit and conditions that make even the most advanced expeditions think twice, Marie Byrd Land remains one of the least explored places on the planet. It's so isolated that most maps barely bother detailing it, and unless you're a scientist on a rare research mission, you'll probably never step foot there. Despite its brutal conditions, Marie Byrd Land is one of the last places where nature operates entirely on its own terms. No borders, no governments, and no signs of humans. Just pure, untouched wilderness at the bottom of the world. If you've enjoyed this video, please be sure to like and subscribe to our channel for more awesome content like this. Thanks for tuning in, and we'll see you soon.